Meanwhile, nearly half of Americans believe the coronavirus pandemic is affecting their mental health. 19% say it's having a major impact, according to a CBS poll. Psychologist and CBS News contributor Lisa Damour joins us now from Cleveland to answer your questions about the virus and mental health. Lisa, good morning. Let's begin with, I think, the most common mental health challenge out there, and that is Americans facing depression. A viewer on Instagram asks what advice you have for people who are right now alone as they shelter in place and suffering from long-term depression.
Good morning, and I'm so glad that we're answering these questions. So when we think about depression, the first thing we need to remember is that this is a treatable mental illness. But what people may not know is that they can get treatment right now, even under stay-at-home conditions. Typically, telehealth is something that requires a special license, something that where if we're going to work with people digitally. But under the current conditions, those regulations have been relaxed. States and insurance companies are working to make sure that people can get mental health care. So if you or someone you love needs to work with somebody for support, reach out through your normal referral channels, maybe your general practitioner or your employer. Find yourself a good mental health clinician and start working with them now from home. And then you can follow up with them in person when things return to normal. The other thing I would say right now is that we need to be really careful about how we are coping with this, whether we have mental health concerns prior to this or not. We want to watch out for negative coping strategies. So any coping strategy offers relief, but negative coping strategies don't work well over the long run. So don't allow yourself to emotionally isolate. Don't count on substances to manage hard feelings. Don't let yourself fall into bad habits about not sleeping enough or becoming sedentary. Instead, we want to turn to positive coping strategies whenever we can. Reach out to other people, use happy distractions to manage emotional discomfort. Find yourself ways to make sure you're getting enough sleep, getting enough exercise, getting outdoors when you can. Those positive coping strategies are going to make a huge difference.
Lisa, we've also got a question on Facebook from Remley, who regularly uses meditation and other techniques to manage her anxiety. But now she feels her skills are no longer useful, and she asks, what can I do to get this in check?
Great question. So everyone's anxiety is a little bit heightened right now, and that's a normal reaction. I don't want people to feel anxious if they're feeling anxious. That's appropriate right now. But if you feel like your normal strategies for regulating your anxiety are not working well, what I would say to everybody is that it's time to up your breathing game. And here's what I mean. When we are highly anxious, our brain sends a message to our heart and our lungs to speed activity. And this is actually rooted in the ancient fight or flight system, but it's physically uncomfortable. That's what we experience as uncomfortable anxiety. It turns out that our lungs can actually send a message back to our brain. Our lungs are covered with a network of nerves that detect the activity of the brain, of the lungs, of how quickly and deeply we are breathing. So if you deliberately slow and deepen your breathing, it actually speaks to those nerves, those stretch receptors on your lungs, and sends a reassuring message back up to the brain to sort of calm the anxiety response. So I know it can seem like everybody talks about breathing and it maybe seems sort of small or like not a big intervention, but in fact, careful and slow and deep breathing can significantly reduce anxiety.
Yeah, Lisa, that's great advice. I mean, sometimes the simple things are the most powerful things. I want to sneak in one more question here from a viewer named Carol, who asked something that I think many of us are thinking about as we look ahead to a time when this virus is gone and we can get back to something like normal. And her question is, will she ever enjoy being around strangers again and not feel threatened?
This is an interesting one because under normal conditions, the rule is that avoidance feeds anxiety, that if you have a fear, you have to face it to get past it. But right now, the guidance is avoid everyone and everything, and that is the right, healthy, safe thing to do, to really stay home and to be very cautious about going out. When things go back to normal, there may be some people who feel frightened about returning to life as it was before, and that will be the time for them to face their fears. The good news here is that they don't have to do it all at once. They can do it in baby steps.
Lisa, Got it. Baby steps. A lot of us are doing baby steps these days. Sue from Facebook says her family is starting to get agitated with one another and wants to know, when will the bickering be over? What solutions can you recommend about that for families to get along? And there's an article in USA Today where it says yelling and spanking is up in homes these days. Can you address those?
Sure. So we're all in close quarters and people are getting on one another's nerves. So if you can find space, take a break, you should do it. We have to remember that when it comes to bickering, it takes two to bicker. So just because somebody tosses something at you doesn't mean you have to catch it. You can refuse to engage that way, or you can say to them, start again. I would say for families with kids, they may see a lot of bickering right now, and some of that may be how kids are trying to manage boredom. Kids have a lot of time on their hands, and sometimes siblings will manage their boredom by starting something with one of their siblings. So if you think this might be happening, I would just call it on the carpet, and I would just say, look, you might be bored, but antagonizing your sister is not the solution to that problem. Go find something else to do.
Lisa Damour, I think that's a great piece of advice to end on. And I would only add that if you're one of those Americans still lucky enough to have a job and you're trying to do it from home, a little forgiveness. You're not going to be as productive, as efficient, as capable as you might have been when you were going to an office. Everything is disrupted. So just forgive yourself. Lisa,
Absolutely.
thank you very much.